Discover the latest health tips, expert advice, and inspiring stories. This is the Health Channel Podcast. Your journey to better health starts now.
You've probably heard that peptides are the next great treatment for good health and longevity, or that cold plunges are the key to lowering inflammation. You've probably also heard about apple cider vinegar and maybe even heard about red light therapy. Well, today, let's look at what's hot, what's not, and what actually works for our health, as well as answer your questions here on this episode of Ask the Doc. No appointment needed. Welcome to Ask the Doc, the show where we encourage you, our viewers, to send in your healthcare questions and our experts help answer them. My name is Dr. Kamaljit Kaur, and I am a primary care physician here in beautiful South Florida. Let's get right to these questions today. The first one comes to us from Daria, and Daria has reached out through our website, allhealthtv.com, to ask, "Hey, Doc, what's the deal with the current peptide craze? Please tell me what a peptide is and how it works. Like a lot of middle-aged men and women, I'm always looking for that proverbial fountain of youth." Hi, Daria. This is a wonderful question. And yes, I don't know anybody who wouldn't appreciate a fountain of youth. And there's a lot of ways to get to it. But what about these peptides that everybody's talking about, right? So let's talk a little bit about them. They're everywhere, from digital social media to in-person and real-life social circles. Everyone's talking about these new substances. Well, that's just it. They're not new. They're actually quite old because these are substances that are naturally found in our body. They occur naturally. What may seem new, however, is some of the applications that we're seeing science reveal for these peptides and for a lot of different types of peptides. But let's back up and let's get to what actually is a peptide. Well, you may have heard of amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. And peptides are essentially small chains of these building blocks or of these amino acids. When this small chain becomes larger, so when a peptide becomes a longer chain, that is then known as a protein. So basically the same thing, just different ways of naming it. And these smaller chains of amino acids or peptides work in the body as signaling molecules. They essentially tell your cells what to do. Obviously, different cells in different parts of your body are going to react differently to these peptides and these substances. Most commonly known peptides in our body, because like I said, they're naturally occurring, so you are born with a lot of them. And the ones that are most commonly known are the ones like insulin, GLP-1 agonists, that's also a naturally occurring peptide. And then you may also wonder, well, if these are naturally occurring, what's all the craze about? I mean, if it's something that's already in our bodies, what is everybody getting all excited about? Well, just like with GLP-1 agonists, scientists have been aware of this substance, aware that it exists and what it does in the body as well. However, several years ago, we've started to discover that these help in other ways than we had previously known about to help benefit our health. This has led to research surrounding other peptides. For instance, in the last several years, the GLP-1s that are naturally in our body have been seen to have a real benefit in weight loss and weight management. So when scientists started seeing that, because remember, scientists are we're inquisitive. When we see one thing working a certain way, we want to know what else can work in a good way in our body as well. So we started looking at different types of peptides, even the ones that are already in our body, and seeing, hey, what else can these do for us? We know of them in one aspect, but maybe they can do other things that are also beneficial. So this led to an increase in research surrounding other peptides, such as BPC 157, tesmorelin. There's a whole bunch of other ones, but some of this research has been promising and has shown that maybe some of these peptides do have anti-inflammatory benefits. Maybe they can help us lose weight. Maybe they can help us regrow hair as we age and that hair is thinning. And since we're all looking for that fountain of youth, this has led to the development of the craze that you see everywhere and on social media, and everybody's talking about it. But you should keep in mind that even though there's some promising research surrounding these substances, we do need more robust studies to really be certain that these exogenous peptides, exogenous meaning the peptides that are being given to our body from an outside source, whether that's an injection or a cream or a serum, we need to make sure that they are actually beneficial and that they're safer than they can be harmful. We always want to make sure that we're not exposing our patients to any high risk of side effects or harm from any treatment, whether it's peptides or medications or even over the counter products. So you always want to be mindful of that. And it's very important also, this is important, that you discuss with your physician whether or not these substances are something that you should explore. Majority of them might not be harmful, but we really don't know that for sure. And especially if you have underlying health conditions, you want to make sure that you talk about it with your doctor. And lastly, don't forget, the best way to get that fountain of youth going and keep it flowing is the natural things that our body loves to do and knows how to process and behave with, such as eating a nutritious, healthy diet, getting enough sleep, reducing your stress, making sure you're physically active, and making sure you have fulfilling relationships with your loved ones. All those things are really going to be the best, and research has shown this, to improve our longevity, our wellness, our state of mind, and really just help us live happy, healthy, and live longer. So you want to keep that in mind as well. Let's get on to our next question. And this one comes to us from Samuel. And Samuel is asking, hi, Dr. Kaur, can we talk about cold plunges for a minute? Do they really help with immunity and reduce inflammation? My brother-in-law is a big advocate and wants me to jump in with him. Hi, Samuel. Thanks for sending in a question that's on everybody's mind nowadays. This is also a very popular topic, just like peptides are. And I personally know some people who absolutely love cold plunges and absolutely swear by them. But what is the actual science behind them? Let's take a look. We do know that studies have shown cold plunges do have a positive or can have a positive effect on our immune system by boosting it and have some anti-inflammatory effects as well. But this science, even though there's some studies, it's not robust enough. It's not widely accepted enough to really say, yes, this for sure does it. For instance, certain medications, certain supplements, we know exactly what they do when they go in the body. And we've seen it happen to enough humans over a longer period of time to know that this is actually true. Unfortunately, we just don't have that robust information from cold plunges, just like with some of the peptides that I was talking about earlier. Now, cold water immersion, really, it has been shown to trigger a part of your immune system that boosts it, kind of like a spark. But how long does that spark last? Is it something that's permanent in the body, or is it just short-lived? That's something that we're really not sure about yet either. We have seen that there can be some protective properties, but the main concern always is, what else is it doing in the body? Is it doing anything else that potentially might be harmful, or is it doing something that's even worth it? Cold plunges are also a very expensive treatment. So we want to make sure if somebody is doing them on a regular basis, it's worth their money and it's actually worth it for their health and benefits against that too. But when it comes to cold plunges, there's also heat therapy that we talk about. These modalities, we do know a few things about them. And, I keep saying that we need more research, but there is some research that's already been done. And what it's shown is that essentially what a cold plunge does is when you plunge into that icy cold water, it kind of sparks a stress response, a good stress response for your immune system. And like I was saying, it sparks it into a good fight or flight mode. Those good cancer killing cells, those inflammation repair cells, they kind of activate and wake up and say, hey, we need to start running around and doing things. So we have seen the benefit there. We've also seen, though, that with cold plunges, your heart rate can go up, your blood pressure can go up, and that can be a temporary effect, but it can be a significant effect, which is why, as with any other treatment, I always say you want to make sure that it's something that's safe for you. For instance, if you're an individual who has a certain heart condition or heart disease, a cold plunge may not be such a good idea for you because of that short-lived increase in your heart rate and in your blood pressure. If you're already dealing with issues in those sectors, you don't want to do something that's going to make them worse, and then potentially, put you into complications. That's going to be not a good situation. So, like I said, even though we're seeing the promising research, we still have some hesitancy towards cold plunges and whether or not they are good for everybody in every health situation and in every scenario. And like I said, with any medical treatment, you always want to talk to your doctor about it and make sure that this is safe for you. All right, let's get to our next question. And this one comes to us from Renata, who's reached out through YouTube to ask us, Hola, Dr. K. I'm hearing that smoking is making a comeback, mostly among younger people, but that really surprised me. Can you tell me what's going on? Hi, Renata. Thank you for sending in your question. And to be quite honest with you, I am very, very surprised that this is happening. Now, I appreciate that a lot of old trends are coming back. I mean, I'm a millennial, so I yearn for the nostalgia and the way things were in the old days, because some might say that things were better in the old days. So I completely understand that. But with the good always comes the bad inevitably. And we are seeing that nicotine is making a comeback. It might not be in actual cigarette smoking, but we are seeing it in things like vaping, nicotine patches, nicotine chews. For some reason, for a lot of reasons that one can theorize, this is something that the younger populations are seeing as trendy again, maybe because there's edginess to smoking. And if you recall back in the day, a lot of media, TV, movies would show certain characters that are strong and edgy, and they'd usually be smoking. So a lot of people have connected that with cigarette smoking, which is not right. And unfortunately, even though it's popular, it is harmful to our health. But that's what I think is what's happening. And due to a variety of reasons, this nostalgia trend is bringing back cigarette smoking, nicotine usage and nicotine ingestion as well. And nevertheless, even though it's something that's trendy and it's coming back, it's still harmful. Nicotine's properties didn't change. It's still very, very harmful to our body, whether it's your cardiovascular health, your lung health. It still increases the risk of cancers. It still increases the risk of heart attacks and strokes. In fact, a lot of people don't know this, but nicotine actually accelerates the rate at which cholesterol packs up in your heart arteries. So if you already have cholesterol sitting in your heart arteries, which a lot of us do to some extent, especially as we age, nicotine is going to create such an environment in your heart arteries that becomes inflammatory, and then that cholesterol builds up even more and stronger, and then that leads to heart attacks, strokes, and a lot of other cardiac dysfunction. So just because it's back and it's trendy doesn't mean the bad stuff went away. I hope that the younger generations come to realize this, and I hope there's more thought process going into this, and hopefully that trend goes away pretty soon, because it's really not one that I, or honestly any physician, likes. So I hope that helped answer your question. Our next question comes to us from Instagram, and this is sent in by Lenny. Lenny wants to know, Dr. K, please tell me more about GLP-1 medications. I know they're peptides, but I hear so much about them, not just for weight loss, but that they also help with addiction recovery and heart disease. What's the real story here? Hi, Lenny. You're absolutely right. These drugs are very, very popular. And even though initially this popularity was surrounding their weight loss benefits, research has now shown that they're beneficial in other aspects of our health as well. But let's do a quick recap first on what GLP-1 agonists actually are. Now, these have been around for a very long time for diabetes treatments, but they've gained popularity in the last several years for their effects on weight management and weight loss. While there is an increasing amount of research going on as to why they're helpful for that, studies have also begun to show us that they're helpful for, just like you mentioned, addiction recovery and heart benefits as well. So GLP-1. Now, this is a hormone that's naturally occurring in our body, and it affects various parts of our chemistry, including in the brain. In the brain, you do have GLP-1 receptors. Now, these receptors are, if you think of them like Legos, these receptors are like a key. I think a key and a lock is a better analogy here. So for GLP-1 receptors that are in the brain, that's the lock, and then the GLP-1 hormone itself is the key. So what happens is when this hormone attaches onto that receptor, whatever the mechanism that receptor is there for is going to go into play. So in our brain, we've seen that there's different parts that have these GLP-1 receptors, and one of the most notable parts is our reward system. And that reward system, when the GLP-1 hormone or GLP-1 medications stimulate or connect to that receptor, that does things to that center of the brain. And essentially what we've noticed is that the cravings start to decrease. Now, whether that's cravings for food, for nicotine, or for certain drugs, either way, we've seen that the cravings go down in intensity and in frequency. So that particular individual, if they do have an addiction to something, we have seen that it can be treated with certain GLP-1 medications. Now, there's still a lot of research that we need, but this is promising. To even see that that effect is happening is very, very promising. And it makes us excited as physicians because then we have more tools in our toolbox to really help our patients that suffer from any kind of addiction. Now, let's talk about GLP-1 agonists and heart disease. While the mechanisms are quite complex, simply put, these medications do help improve and reduce your risk of heart disease by reducing inflammation in the heart arteries and in the heart muscles and the tissues around the heart itself. It also has been seen that these medications can increase the chances of your blood vessels relaxing. Now, when your blood vessels are inflamed and they're constricted and they spasm or they tighten up, that's obviously an environment that promotes high blood pressure and can set you up for heart arrhythmias as well as other heart conditions. And we've seen that GLP-1 agonists can actually relax those blood vessels so that the blood flow can improve through them and you can stay healthy in your cardiovascular system. We've also seen through different direct and indirect mechanisms that GLP-1 agonists can reduce your cholesterol, especially that LDL, that bad cholesterol. So that's been very helpful as far as cardiovascular benefits go. And there's a lot more, like I said, research that's going on that's showing other benefits of GLP-1 agonists. And even though there's all these benefits that we're seeing, remember, there is a potential for side effects. So you always want to talk to your doctor about whether or not it's appropriate for you and your specific health conditions. Because just because you're somebody who may have some weight to lose and has a heart condition, it's not always an automatic that these medications are going to be working well for you and not cause any risk of harm or side effects at all. So always review it with your doctor, just like any other treatment. Let's get to the next question. This comes to us through Facebook from Everly, and Everly is asking, Dr. Kaur, I know that drinking apple cider vinegar was a big thing a few years back, but my chiropractor still sings its praises. Can you tell me if there are any merits to this? This is a great question. And I remember this was huge for a while. While there's all these trends that are coming and going and popular, there's some really simple things that you can do for your body to stay healthy. But we should also address these trends to make sure that we're giving you the right information. So apple cider vinegar, let's talk about it. That being said, with all of the popularity around apple cider vinegar, we do have some science to back it up. Now, some studies have shown that it actually has been beneficial, especially for reducing blood sugar in known diabetic individuals. It's not enough to say that, hey, along with your insulin or along with your metformin, take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar every day, but it's enough that it makes us think, hey, there might be some merit to this. We need to continue looking into it. And as we do that, we still want to use the validated treatments to treat our patients for those conditions. And the same thing goes when apple cider vinegar is touted for its anti-cholesterol and heart health benefits. Same thing. We've also seen studies that show apple cider vinegar can have an anti-inflammatory and antibacterial effect. And some animal studies have even shown that it can have anti-cancer properties. However, it should always, always, always be noted that there is not enough studies done in humans surrounding apple cider vinegar to say that this is a positively beneficial and confirmed type of treatment. Now, what about apple cider vinegar and weight loss? Because that was one thing that it was very popular for in my day, if I may say. And there's been a lot of studies done to check that out because it was so popular and it was such a something that people really wanted to know. Unfortunately, the studies didn't really show much. There's really not any significant reduction in body fat or in BMI with the ingestion of apple cider vinegar. So unfortunately, we can't put that into our weight loss toolbox, at least not more than, the other things that we do know that are validated. The other thing to remember is apple cider vinegar it's vinegar. It's quite acidic. It's quite bitter. So while diluting it in water is generally safe, there are some forms of apple cider vinegar that can actually be harmful. For instance, the apple cider vinegar tablets can be quite erosive to your esophagus and quite inflammatory to the tissue linings there. And it can actually even cause permanent damage. So you want to be aware of that. And like with any other supplement, you want to make sure that whatever you're ingesting or taking into your body is going to be safe for you, and you're doing it in a way that's not going to produce side effects or harm. And until then, I think apple cider vinegar might just be good in our salad dressing. So we'll just leave it at that. I hope that helped to answer that question for you. And let's get to our next one. This one comes to us from Micah, and Micah is writing in from Instagram to ask, Doctor, can we talk about supplements, please? Not just vitamins, but supplements that promise to help you live better, live longer. And you know what I mean? Are they actually legitimate? Thank you for sending in this question. I get it all the time, to be honest with you. Now, when evaluating the legitimacy of any medical treatment, whether it's a prescription or not, physicians, we do like to know as much detail about it as possible because we want to make sure that what we're recommending to you, to our patients, has a low risk of side effects and harm and a high chance of benefiting them, of course. That being said, unlike a lot of medications that are validated, supplements don't undergo the rigorous FDA approval process or the testing process that's related to it. And that process usually allows us to be very confident in the safety profile of the treatments or the medications. And since supplements don't undergo that, we can't always say the same for them. Additionally, since there's no formal or standardized regulation of supplements, many supplements may not even have the actual amount of the substance in them that's written on the bottle, or it may have it, but it may not be in a form that's bioavailable or readily absorbed into your body, and it may not be as much benefit as you would think it is. Still, it doesn't mean that supplements are completely unwarranted. For instance, I regularly prescribe vitamin D supplements to my patients, especially when they are low in it, because vitamin D is a very, very important component of our health. And if you don't have enough of it, then it's our duty to let you know and to put you on a supplement that's going to normalize those levels for you. We do prefer that you get your vitamins, your nutrients, all through a whole foods, fresh, nutritious diet. But we also know that this is not always possible in today's hectic society. Therefore, if we find through blood work that you're deficient in something, then we will recommend that you take it as a supplement. Other than validated vitamins that we do know of, like vitamin D, there are other supplements, a variety of them that are available on the market. And most of them may be completely harmless, but some of them may actually cause problems in your body, especially if you have other health conditions. For instance, I have a patient who is someone who has a lot of cardiac conditions, and she's on blood thinners, and she sent me her list of supplements just recently asking, are these safe for me to take? And she didn't realize that some of those supplements actually interact with her blood thinner and may even increase her risk of bleeding and having a serious complication like that. So going through supplements is really, really important with your doctor, especially if you're on other medications. But even if you're a healthy 20 or 30-year-old, the other thing about supplements is you want to put in your body what you know is to be healthy, right? But these can sometimes be very costly as well. So we also don't want our patients to spend money frivolously and not get the benefit that they're expecting. We want to make sure that you're getting your health in order and doing it in the right way. So like I say, always talk to your doctor about it. As far as supplements go that say you're going to live longer, you're going to live healthier and happier, well, some of them can also have a placebo effect. They may not do anything positive in the body, but remember, just by you thinking like that, that's actually proven to be more beneficial for your health and improving your longevity and wellness than some actual supplements are. So there's something to be said about the placebo effect as well. Just like with any other trend, you always want to take everything with a grain of salt and personalize it to you and to your health. These questions have been absolutely wonderful. I'm glad that I got to address some of these trends and maybe even break some myths and maybe even provide you some reassurance surrounding them. When it comes to trends, you always want to talk to your healthcare provider about it and be safe. And at the end of the day, we just want you to be happy and healthy. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to continuing answering your questions in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Health Channel podcast. We hope this information has been useful. However, please remember that only your doctor can advise you about what is best for you. Do not start, modify, or suspend treatment based on anything you have heard on this podcast. Please join us again soon.